Well, good morning, everybody. As Richard's very kindly said, Robert Norum, I'm the ABM and Demand Strategy Expert on Propolis. My role in life is basically delivering ABM training and consulting services and advisory for Propolis members and for the wider B2B marketing network. So the conversation I'm going to talk to you about today is the operating system for the commercial marketeer. Well, first of all, what is this commercial marketeer? If you've been on Propolis for the last year, you'll know it's a major theme for us. But essentially, if you haven't, the headlines come thick and fast, and I'm sure everybody's familiar with this. There is pressure on marketing. There is pressure on budgets. There is a mandate for us to be showing commercial return for everything we do. If we try and distill that down into 4 key takeouts, we want to prove commercial impact with constrained budgets. We want to speak the language of the boardroom so that we can actually engage the C-suite and really make sure we're talking their language. We want to link every action to outcomes. This is not about marketing outputs, it's about outcomes for the business. And you will have heard the old cliche of doing more with less. That's something marketing are under constant pressure to be doing. So what is the commercial marketeer imperative? For anybody that's been on Propolis, you'll know there are 5 key themes that we focus on. And this is about marketing embedding itself in the future of the business, understanding what is driving the business from a financial point of view, being able to talk to the C-suite, being able to represent the customer and the voice of the customer in the business, and really connecting all parts of the organization together efficiently. Sitting around that, there are 6 key skills. And this is, again, all about making marketeers more valuable to the business. Somehow marketing have been straitjacketed to become the people that run events and generate leads. Somehow we've been, if you like, put in a situation where we're on the back foot a lot of the time. We want to be on the front foot, and we want to be talking to the business about things that really matter. And that's the whole driver behind the commercial marketeer. If we think about ABM, there is no better framework for these skills than account-based marketing. This is about breaking down silos, it's about connecting the business, and it's about showing real commercial return, whether that's looking at acquiring customers, growing them, protecting them, and maximizing our revenue potential to bring them, if you like, into long-term advocates for our organization. So what is this operating system and why is it so important? Those of you that might have seen Kerry Cunningham present at this conference last year from 6 Sense Kerry talked about 70% of the buying journey taking place before the customer even engages the vendor community. By that time, they already have a really clear understanding of what it is they want to buy, and they've typically shortlisted 3 to 5 vendors. Astonishingly, the vendor that's in pole position on day 1 wins that business 81% of the time. So it's absolutely mission critical that we're thinking about these accounts before they come to market. Additional research from LinkedIn and Bain last year talked about the buying group, and they confirmed what we all know, which is the buying group is a complex beast. They talked about 10 decision makers. We've obviously seen numbers that go up right to 17 and even 20. But the interesting thing is, in Bain and LinkedIn's research, they talked about the buying group being split roughly 50-50 between active and passive buyers. The active buyers are the people you think you're selling to. They're the people that your sales organization are talking to. The passive buyers are the people that sit behind the scenes, C-suite, legal, procurement, etc. And they may not be involved in shortlisting vendors, but they have the power to say no. And we need to find those decision makers, and we need to make sure we're talking to the entire buying group. Another driver for ABM is unquestionably the fragmentation that takes place if you think about the different silos in your organization, and whether that's sales, marketing, customer success, delivery teams. If all of those teams have their own targets, their own objectives, then everybody is working to a fragmented agenda, if you like, where you're not thinking of the customer, and it's not joined up, it's not credible from a customer experience perspective. So what are we going to do to bring all this together? To manage this complexity and to really drive commercial results, we need a central architecture. And you might not be surprised to know that I think ABM is that central architecture. So ABM gives you the position and the permission to join up marketing, sales, customer success, operations, and even your third-party partners in terms of resellers and alliance partners, etc. So this is all about creating an operating system that will connect the business and will put you in the driving seat. We also want to think about expanding marketing's influence right through the customer lifecycle. There is too much pressure on actually delivering immediate return. Appreciate we're all on quarterly number targets, or at least our sales teams are. That's how we're reporting as a business. But we need to think about a long-term customer lifecycle rather than just generating immediate sales. And from that point of view, think about, if you like, two application suites. The first one is, let's think about shifting left. This is how do we engage those customers in the 70% cycle, if you like? How do we talk to them before they're coming to market? How do we shape their needs and requirements? And the shift right is once we've won the account, this is not about closed won or even closed lost. This is how do we actually extend the life of this customer? How do we take them on a journey where they're actually becoming more engaged with us, buying more of our products and solutions, becoming, if you like, a long-term partner for the organization? So let's unpack those applications in a bit more detail. Let's have a look at the OS. If we think about the shift left, we start off with what I call account-based branding. And that cropped up in this very event last year when I was introducing Lorna. I think it was almost a sort of, oh, and here's a good idea. It's called account-based branding. Well, what is account-based branding? It's about thinking about your most important customers and prospects on a long-term basis and making sure your brand is alive and well and really engaging those target accounts. So you could call that micro-branding, if you like, where you're not thinking about running Super Bowl ads, you're thinking about the top 50, the top 100, the top 200 companies that you really want to be engaged with. If we think about buyer group marketing, this has obviously been a major theme on LinkedIn, and there's been a lot of content over the last year or two on buyer group marketing. For me, the idea that buyer group marketing is somehow an evolution of ABM is kind of missing the point. If you're targeting accounts, you need to understand what the buyer group looks like. And what are we trying to do here? We're trying to make sure we're engaging that full committee and making sure that we're talking not just to the active buyers, who would be the people specifying product and making the decision, but the people who have the power to say no. We also need to think about how we orchestrate those multi-persona communications, so we're talking to people in their language about specifics that are important to them in their roles. If we think about shift right, then this is all about the long-term relationship with customers. This does not stop, if you like, when they've made the purchase. This is how do we ensure their experience as a customer is optimized? How do we make sure the onboarding process works efficiently? How do we make sure the support systems are in place? And of course, how do we think about how we would upsell and cross-sell to these organizations over time? Even beyond that, we can think about ABM in the context of our partner networks. And I think partner-based ABM is increasingly an important play, where it gives you the opportunity to scale. It gives you the opportunity to reach organizations that might not be accessible to you. And if you think about working with strategic alliance partners, it's the 1 + 1 = 3, where you're stronger together than you are individually. So let's have a look at what this looks like. If we think about account-based marketing as a strategy, in a sense, this is the operating system. Whether we call it ABM or whether we call it something else, it's the underpinning logic of taking an account-focused approach to doing business. The two immediate satellites that sit over that are account-based engagement. Of course, this has been used as a replacement, if you like, for companies that don't want to use ABM as their moniker because they don't want marketing to be seen as front and center. But for me, account-based engagement says this is about engaging new customers who we haven't done business with before, and we really need to build our profile, reputation, and communications with. ABX lends itself, of course, to your existing customers. This is about customer experience. How do we optimize the account-based experience? So if those are the first two apps sitting on the operating system, where do we go from there? Well, there are 4 further apps I'd suggest are really important. The first one I've touched on already, which is account-based branding. This is about engaging with our target customers much earlier in the process and making sure that we're in their thinking and in their frame of mind even before they start their purchasing journey. Buyer group marketing, as I've said, is all about optimizing the depth and breadth that we have within our key accounts and making sure we're reaching people that are not necessarily immediately obvious to us. I haven't touched on deal-based marketing yet, but essentially deal-based marketing is a focused version of one-to-one. It's all about the RFP and the bid, and it's what role can marketing take from day one to really give us the optimal chance of winning that account and, of course, landing the business. And partner-based ABM, clearly, as I've mentioned already, is about extending the breadth and width, if you like, of how we're engaging the market. And there's the builds that I probably should have been doing all the way through that, but there you go. So what are we trying to do here? We're trying to put the customer at the center of everything we do. It's not rocket science, but that's the whole purpose of an account-centric strategy. Whether they're existing customers or whether they're prospects, it's how do we align the customer and make sure that we have a consistent line of communication, if you like, right across the board, and we have brand, sales, marketing, customer success, delivery teams, and even partners working together. It's all about moving away from fractured handoffs, to a seamless collaboration. This would not be 2025 if I didn't use those magic two letters, AI, and clearly, oh, and by the way, a mid-journey image as well, just for good measure, but clearly AI is in fact the new kid on the block, if you like, that's going to enable us to scale our ABM programs, not just in terms of volume, but in terms of the quality of communication. And you'll see I'm talking left brain and right brain. AI does not take over ABM, but it becomes an enabler. It enables us to do things more quickly. It enables us to get our hands on research more easily. It enables us to personalize content more efficiently by company and by persona. But we need to keep in mind the right side of the brain as well, which is, of course, the human element. And whether that's talking about creative thinking, whether it's talking about empathy, whether it's talking about making smart decisions for the business, AI can't do that yet. Some of you might be thinking, well, this is all great, but where's one-to-one and one-to-few and one-to-many ABM? Well, I have to say the full-stack ABM model is alive and well. This is something that I rolled out a couple of years ago, and we talked about it at this conference 2 years ago. The full-stack ABM model overlays the operating system. So we start by assessing the total addressable market. We then drill down into the target accounts that we want to develop over time, using one-to-many as our new demand gen. We then drill into one-to-few, which obviously is a smart group of accounts that have been carefully selected within key verticals. And then we drill into one-to-one, which speaks for itself. And even within one-to-one, there's deal-based marketing, which is obviously hyper-focused. There is a much more detailed model of this that's available on Propolis and I think in various communications that we can share with you as well if anybody's interested. So what's this all about? Why are we doing this? Well, it's about commercial impact, and we're trying to move marketing from being an internal service function to being a strategic growth engine. And Richard's obviously alluded to this already. And you can see on the left-hand side, we're talking about the old world. The old world is sales are the dominant partner. I ran an ABM Essentials training course yesterday, and one of the attendees who's in the room said, sales are kings. I thought, well, that's one way of putting it. But sales have been the dominant partner in this relationship for a very long time, where marketing is seen as the people that run events and do stuff and get some leads. We don't want to be in that position. We want to be on the right-hand side, where marketing is taking a strategic view of the business and collaborating in the right way right across the organization. We want to think about the metrics that really matter to the C-suite. And this is not about opens and clicks and downloads. This isn't even about engaging with our content. This is about demonstrating that what we're doing is having a real impact on revenue, on market share, on growth. So to wrap up, ABM really has the power to transform your business. This is not about a pilot. It's not about an experiment. It's not about a trial. It's not about trying to justify that ABM's a good idea. It's about actually taking this as a company-wide initiative where we can unify and break down the silos across the business. We can focus and deliver real growth from acquisition right through to customer retention. And we can obviously connect all parts of the organization in a customer-centric play. For me, the time is now for ABM. And I think the fact that we're at an inflection point with AI, this is now perhaps not even an evolution, as Richard's alluded to. We're calling it the revolution. And it's really the coming together of, we have the commercial mandate to make this happen. The organization needs it. We have the operating system, as hopefully I've made clear, which gives you a raft of different options to engage right across the organization. And we have the AI accelerator, which is going to enable you to personalize content and scale and access information much more quickly than you've ever been able to do before. So on that note, I'm delighted to say that I've been working with John this year, and he's actually driven a complete transformation to an ABE, as you're calling it, John, but an ABE process right across Genesis. So John, I'll hand over to you.
Brilliant.